A colossal crown of crimson clouds swirls eternally across the solar system's greatest throne. Jupiter holds the crushing mass of 318 Earths within its swirling radioactive depths. Yet this planetary titan contains no solid surface for a human foot to ever touch. Instead of a floor, you encounter a transition where gas becomes a crushing ocean of metallic hydrogen. This is a journey through a predatory vacuum where your body dissolves into a 90% hydrogen nightmare. Number 5. The death of solid ground. When you approach the Jovian exosphere at a staggering 173,000 kilometers per hour, at this speed, the thin outer gases act like a brick wall, creating friction that spikes to 15,000 degrees Celsius against your heat shield. This is hotter than the surface of the sun. Even if you survive the initial fire, the gravity begins to warp your very perception of weight. At the 1 bar pressure level, you would weigh 2.5 times your Earth weight, turning a simple movement into a bone-crushing struggle. But search as you might through the swirling ammonia abyss, you will find no crust, no stone, and no soil. Current data from the Juno and Galileo missions confirms that Jupiter is not a solid object, but a gradual, terrifying. The 1995 Galileo probe only survived 58 minutes before the environment pulverized its electronics. Theoretical models suggest the probe didn't just break. It was completely vaporized within 10 hours of entry. As you sink deeper, the distinction between atmosphere and ocean vanishes entirely. You aren't just falling anymore. You are slowly merging with the planet itself. Scientists are now grappling with radio occultation data from February 2026, showing that the planet is physically narrower and flatter at the poles than previously estimated, suggesting the very shape of this giant is as fluid as its interior. There is no ground to break your fall, only an endless, darkening descent into a molecular pressure cooker that eventually turns the very air you breathe into a crushing, liquid sea. This is the first stage of your nightmare, the realization that the ground beneath you doesn't exist, and the only way to go is down. Number 2. The atmosphere of eternal storms. As you plummet past the exosphere, the absolute silence of the vacuum is replaced by a low, guttural roar that you have reached the cloud tops, a realm of frozen ammonia crystals, where the temperature drops to a bone-shattering minus 145 degrees Celsius, or 230 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. This is not a gentle descent into a fog. You have entered a planetary-scale wind tunnel. Verified data from the Galileo and Juno missions confirm that wind speeds here reach a consistent 640 kilometers per hour. On Earth, a Category 5 hurricane, the most destructive force our weather can produce, pales in comparison to these 400-mile-per-hour gales. You aren't just falling, you are being whipped sideways by a kinetic energy that defies human experience. Below the pristine white ammonia clouds, the sky shifts into shades of bruised ochre and sickly brown as you plunge through thick layers of ammonium hydrosulfide. This is where by the time you reach the white and blue water ice clouds, the atmosphere around you has ceased to feel like air. It begins to press against your hull with the weight of a physical object. At this depth, the pressure reaches 5 to 10 bars, the mathematical equivalent of being 300 feet beneath Earth's ocean surface. Yet you are still in the mere skin of the planet. You are currently drifting through a world fueled by internal heat, where the Great Red Spot, a cyclonic storm larger than Earth itself, churns with a violent persistence. Scientists are particularly unsettled by recent 2026 modeling, which suggests that while the surface appears chaotic, the deeper atmospheric circulation is actually significantly slower than we once believed. This indicates a massive, heavy interior that moves with a mechanical, grinding indifference to the chaos above. There is no sunlight here. The upper decks have swallowed the sun, leaving you you are a speck of dust in a storm that has raged for centuries, caught between layers of ammonia and water vapor that would vaporize your lungs if the crushing weight of the sky hadn't already begun to pancake your descent vehicle. Everything they believed up to this point was wrong. Number 3. The crush of the abyss. As you sink past the initial cloud layers, the very concept of up and down begins to lose its meaning. You are now entering a realm of absolute suffocating darkness, where the sun's light has been swallowed. This is not a place for humans, nor is it a place for our machines. In 1995, the Galileo probe became a pioneer of this existential terror, plunging into the Jovian depths to see what lay beneath. It survived for only 58 minutes. By the time it reached 156 kilometers deep, the pressure had climbed to a staggering 22 bars. equivalent to being nearly 700 feet beneath Earth's ocean, but without the buoyancy of water to support you. Here, the atmosphere is a crushing weight that presses inward from every direction with the force of a hydraulic press. The heat begins to bake your surroundings, rising to a blistering 152 degrees Celsius, even as you remain surrounded by a frozen hell of ammonia. This environment is a cosmic anomaly that truly breaks the laws of physics as we understand them on our fragile, rocky home. The 156-kilometer mark serves as a terrifying event horizon for human technology. Once you pass it, everything they believed up to this point was wrong. Within this dark, pressurized furnace, you witness the mushballs, strange, slushy hailstones made of ammonia and water that fall through the atmosphere like jagged glass. These mushballs facilitate a phenomenon known as shallow lightning, massive bolts of electricity that tear through the dark with more power than anything seen on Earth. This is a region where the chemistry of life is replaced by the chemistry of destruction. Scientists were horrified to find that the water levels they expected were missing, leading to the realization that Jupiter is far more complex and drier than our early models predicted. Your structural integrity is now a memory. The probe was likely vaporized within 10 hours, its titanium and silicon atoms scattered into the churning winds. You are no longer an observer, you are being integrated into the planet's mass. This is the moment the descent turns from a journey into a dissolution, where the weight of the observable unit. At this depth, the pressure is no longer just a physical force. It is a transformation that prepares you for the impossible physics waiting even further down. Number 2, the sea of liquid metal. As you descend past the first few thousand miles, the very concept of air vanishes, replaced by a reality that defies every law of physics you learned on Earth. At roughly halfway to the planet's center, the pressure becomes so absolute that you are entering the realm of metallic hydrogen. Under the weight of millions of atmospheres, reaching pressures between 3,000 and 4,500 gigapascals, hydrogen atoms are squeezed so tightly together that their electrons are stripped away. This creates a shimmering, liquid sea that conducts electricity like a metal. This is not a sea you could ever hope to navigate. It is a dense, supercritical fluid that generates Jupiter's monstrous magnetic field, a force so powerful it traps relativistic electrons and stretches for millions of miles into the void. But the existential horror, for decades, we believed Jupiter held a solid rocky core. However, recent gravitational data from the Juno mission has shattered that illusion. Instead of a solid sphere, Jupiter possesses a fuzzy core. This dilute region of heavy elements and metallic hydrogen spans nearly 50% of the planet's entire radius. It is a cosmic anomaly that suggests Jupiter may have swallowed a protoplanet whole in a cataclysmic head-on collision 4.5 billion years ago. In this central abyss, the temperature reaches a staggering 24,000 degrees Celsius. This is more than 4 times hotter than the surface of the Sun. At this point, the term descent no longer applies. You have become part of the planet itself, dissolved into a 43,000-degree metallic soup that has been churning since the dawn of the solar system. Scientists remain terrified by this internal structure, even the dimensions of the planet are not what they seem. As of February 2026, new radio occultation data from the Juno mission reveals that Jupiter is actually 8 kilometers narrower at the equator and 24 kilometers flatter at the poles than our previous estimates. It is a shifting, crushing, surfaceless ghost that continues to defy our most advanced science. Number 1. The Cosmic Guardian's Legacy. This is the ultimate existential terror of the gas giant. Jupiter is not just a destination for scientific discovery, but a planetary furnace we use to commit mechanical deicide. Despite the staggering $1.39 billion cost of the Galileo mission, project scientists like Torrance Johnson did not allow the spacecraft to drift into the silent, eternal orbit of a museum piece. Instead, on September 21, 2003, NASA controllers commanded it to perform a deliberate suicide plunge, a high-speed execution designed to ensure that not a single resilient microbe from Earth could ever contaminate the subsurface oceans of the moon Europa. This is the uncompromising law of planetary protection, a desperate attempt to keep our own biological fingerprints off a world that might harbor its own alien life. We are so terrified of what we might accidentally destroy that we feed our greatest. The same fate is already sealed for the Juno mission under the guidance of principal investigator Scott Bolton. Its final planned extension concludes in September 2025, when the spacecraft will be deorbited and vaporized by the very crushing pressures it spent a decade mapping. We are essentially watching a billion-dollar funeral in slow motion. Yet Jupiter's role in the story of Earth is even more profound. It acts as the solar system's cosmic vacuum cleaner. In 1994, the world watched in awe and horror as the comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 was ripped into fragments and swallowed whole by the giant. Without Jupiter's massive gravitational influence acting as a gravity well, those world-ending impacts might have found Earth instead, potentially ending human history before it ever truly began. As the Europa Clipper launched on October 14, 2024, to begin its journey into this relativistic radiation environment, we are reminded that Jupiter is both our it is a world that seemingly breaks the laws of physics, an entity that protects the inner solar system while slowly dissolving everything we send into its lightless heart. We are standing on the shore of an ocean we can never sail, staring into an event horizon of gas and pressure that makes the observer. If you want to keep looking at the universe the way it really is, make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments.